See this morning, World Bank wading into all of these matters, perhaps itemizing some conditions which they think, if properly done, may just see the entire thing. In fact, look at that right there. Urges federal government to tackle fuel supply structure before removal. But you also been perhaps monitoring the developments, the debate about the removal or otherwise of the fuel subsidy. And then, Honda, what do you think of the matter?
Thank you very much. I think the debate has so many sides. The first side is understanding the subsidy issue and the challenges associated with subsidy. The first thing is, what is subsidy? It's a deliberate government policy to peg the price of petroleum products, beyond which the government pays the differential. So whatever it costs somebody to bring in the petrol or kerosene, the government pays the difference between the market price and the actual cost. That is the main issue. Now, everybody says it is not workable. It is not sustainable, both in the short term and in the long term. And in removing, or in the discussion about removal of subsidy, what government is saying is that we are not against subsidy, but we are against generalized subsidy. There are those who need the subsidy more than others. So what we need to do is to redress the balance so that those who need help are given help. It may not necessarily be in petrol subsidy, but in other ways.
What do you mean by generalized subsidy?
You, I presume, use a big Jeep. Right. You don't need your income subsidized. You don't need petrol subsidized. There are those who use buses, the BRT. Those buses actually use diesel. Diesel was subsidized about 7 years ago. Like Molwes. The diesel was subsidized about 7 years ago. So we are subsidizing the big petrol guzzlers to use those vehicles. So when people say it's the common man that they're working, fighting for, it is not true. The common man actually doesn't use the petrol as much as the big man. So there are also sides to it. So one, you are subsidizing for people to use big vehicles and at a considerable cost, and two, the subsidy is not getting to those they should get to. So the general subsidy is attempting to reach everybody, when in fact you want to reach a specific segment of the society.
Have we been able to do a research? I mean, from what you've said now, it seems what you're saying is that majority of people, or petrol is not in use. It's not in use as much as people say or claim that it is. That is actually a host of other fuels. Is that what you're saying?
Well, there are three types: kerosene,
yes,
PMS,
yeah,
and diesel. Diesel was subsidized over 7 years ago. I mean, was deregulated over 7 years ago. We now have PMS and kerosene. Federal government is saying the bulk of the users of kerosene are the masses. Therefore, kerosene is not going to be touched because they need it. PMS is where this waste is associated with. The total cost of subsidy for the government per annum is about 6 billion naira.
Is the assumption
6 billion naira.
Is the assumption of the government that if you are if you own a car and you use petrol, the chances are that you don't have a kerosene stove in your house? Is that what the government is
No,
assuming?
that's not the point. The point is that in terms of usage, in terms of benefits, people who benefit more from the use of subsidy is not the masses, is the importers and the big-time users. So what we want to do is to redirect, refocus the subsidy to those who really need subsidy.
Well,
I was going to say, before we really go deep into all of this, just with one sledgehammer on a Friday, which was last week, specifically a former Minister for Petroleum, Professor Tam David West, did say categorically that subsidy, the talk of subsidy is fraud, that it doesn't exist. Maybe you should tell us soon, because we shouldn't be talking about a non-existent matter to start with. So let's see if it does exist before we can forge ahead with all of this analysis?
Well, thank you very much. I didn't watch the interview, sadly, but
Okay, we got something for you. Let's play it back for you.
All right,
just a bit of it.
A bit of it.
And then you respond.
I've said I still maintain subsidy is a fraud.
How is it?
I tell you. And I challenge the government. I challenge the president and the minister of finance. They face me on silent television to bring their figures. A fraud. Now, how is it a fraud? God has given us petrol under our soil. We have refinery on land. We have petrol stations on land. They go abroad. They sabotage their refineries. When head of state, Absalam Abubakar, whom I respect a lot, was head of state, they asked me about the question of refineries. You know what he said? I don't want to open the Pandora's box of our refineries. So they deliberately sabotage refineries to go and import fuel, refined fuel, to charge Nigerians. That's not subsidy. That's fraud. Subsidy is an organized fraud by government, orchestrated by government. I feel emotional about it because it's a lie.
There you have it, Mr. Tam David West, former Minister of Petroleum. What do you think?
Well, I'm surprised that the former Minister of Petroleum could be talking in that vein. What he is saying is exactly what the government is saying. Government is saying there is a lot of fraud in this subsidy business, and therefore let's remove it. And people are saying, no, don't remove it. So I don't understand the argument. He is actually supporting the argument that subsidy is a scam. In the last 11 years, federal government has issued 20 refinery licenses to private sector operators to build refineries and produce oil locally.
Why haven't they started?
Nobody has. Because it is not economical, it's not viable for anybody to operate at a fixed artificial price. What we are saying is remove the subsidy, let them operate on a market basis so that everybody can have petrol. As long as there is subsidy, there will be no refinery. Tam David West was just talking about the sabotage in our refinery. We have about 4 not working properly. Why are they not working properly? Let me take you to the argument of, or example of how market system works. Before GSM operators came in, private sector GSM operators, we had a company called Nitel. Between 1960 and 2001, we had 450,000 telephone lines. Between 2001 and 2010, we have 70 million. In the face of competition, where is Nitel? Nitel is nowhere to be found. Nitel got free GSM line. It's gone under. The other companies paid over $200 million for their licenses. What are they doing? Making profit. So what we are saying is open up the market, let those who are competent, those who are business-minded, who know what to do, operate.
So that's what government is predicating its reasons on, the telecom sector.
It's not the telecom, it's common sense. You see what happens when you open up an economy. You have a system, you have refineries that have been sucking away huge resources in turnaround maintenance.
Yeah, I'm happy you just talked about the turnaround maintenance, because the Prof Tam David West, I think I'll just keep quoting him back and forth because just the same way I'll quote you when finally you leave here. He did say the turnaround maintenance is also, well, the government's blame, because if you have 2 cars and your cars